Hi guys, it's Amanda from theintuitivelife.com, and if you are ready to learn the differences between Sage and Palo Santo, then stay tuned because that is what I'm talking about in this video today. The reason I created this video was because when I first started learning about this world with the sage and the crystals and the tarot cards, I didn't really know what to do. So that's actually one of the reasons why I am going to start posting more videos regularly to explain my experience and hopefully help you along the way with any questions you might have, because I had a ton of questions when I first started. You may not know this, I actually went to school to be a holistic health practitioner. And I was surrounded by teachers, but I felt like I had so much knowledge that I didn't really know what to do with it. I didn't know when to apply it. I didn't know when to use this versus this. So all the knowledge was in there, I just didn't have any real life experience. Fast forward a few years, now that I've been able to play and learn and understand, I am here to hopefully give you all the information that is in my head that you can use in the real world. So when I first started, all I knew about was sage. Within the past few years, Palo Santo has been kind of introduced to me, and to be honest with you, it took me forever to figure out when to use it or how to use it because I didn't really understand the difference between Palo Santo and Sage. I thought, since I was researching anyways, that I would create this video to help you guys also learn the differences between Sage and Palo Santo. Before I get into the actual differences, I'll show you what they look like. This is just a little sample pack of white sage, so they're super small. It's still in a little baggie. You can get sage in loose leaf or bundle. If you don't get it in the sample pack, because that's all like broken up into tiny little pieces, then this is pretty much what the loose leaves look like. They're actually quite big, so I think they just took these little leaves and crunched them all up and put them in the bag. Or you can have a sage bundle. This one looks terrible because it's lasted me years and I've been burning it forever, but that's pretty much what a bundle looks like. And sometimes you can find them combined with rosemary or lavender or some other herbs depending on the purpose of why you're burning sage. Palo Santo is basically a stick. Okay, it doesn't look like anything special, but it's actually considered to be quite sacred. So I guess I'll talk about Palo Santo first. It is translated into holy wood or wood of the saints. Palo Santo comes from the Palo Santo tree in South America, and it's actually considered so sacred that it's illegal to cut down the tree or damage the tree in any way. These Palo Santo sticks, they're only exported once the tree has died or when pieces of the tree have fallen off. There are a lot of people who don't like the smell of sage, so you might find Palo Santo easier to handle. It has a sweeter, more subtle smell, so it's not as intoxicating. It's been called uplifting yet calming. There's a lot of people in my research this week who have said that they include it in their morning rituals, whether it's with their journaling or with their yoga or their meditation, because it is so calming but has such a positive effect on us and our energy field. It's also said to invite good fortune and love and joy into our lives, and it's also known to boost the immune system and help with symptoms such as headaches, colds, stress, anxiety, and joint pain. Now, when I first got Palo Santo, the person in the store, he told me to use it for a fresh feel. So he used the example of when spring comes along and you just want to give a gentle little boost and cleanse the space a little bit, then use Palo Santo. And he made it sound like Palo Santo is completely different from sage. So before I get into sage, I actually just realized that I haven't even explained why you would need to cleanse your energy or the energy in the room. Usually people will cleanse their energy when there's been an argument or they're feeling very drained and very blah, something just doesn't feel right, that's usually the best time to cleanse your energy because there's a lot of stagnant energy. Palo Santo will do that in a very, gentle and subtle way, but so does sage. So when I first started this research, I expected to find a huge difference between the two of them, and to be honest with you, I didn't find anything massive, anything earth-shattering. They both seem to do pretty close to the exact same thing. It's just whether you prefer to use white sage or to use Palo Santo. I did find that a lot of people said that they used to use sage, but they didn't like the smell of it, so now they completely love Palo Santo and it's the only thing they use. So it all depends on your preference. Go experiment with it, see what you like better, but they both seem to enhance awareness and clear energy. Oh, and I keep saying clear the energy because you may have seen a lot of people online who use the word smudging, and that's not wrong. There were some people who said that they don't use the word smudging because it is directly related to the Native American traditions and sacred ceremonies. Because that's not what their intention is when they're using sage. They are trying to say cleansing or cleansing the energy or clearing the space instead of smudging. So if you're wondering why I'm not really saying smudging or if I'm using them interchangeably, that's why. I became actually very used to saying smudging when I was in school because that just seemed what you were supposed to say when you were talking about sage. What didn't occur to me at the time was that there's actually significance behind the word. So I'm trying to choose my words carefully, but I'm not always very good at that, so sorry. So we'll move on to sage, as I'm dropping little burnt pieces all over my desk. Just gonna put that down. So sage actually apparently increases oxygen to our brain, which is what triggers or induces relaxation. If you've never used sage before and you can handle the smell of it, you will most likely notice a change in your energy, in your, I don't want to say like to your core, but if you ever cleanse your own energy with sage, you definitely notice a before and after difference. Sage is most associated with Native American traditions, like I had said earlier, with the smudging and their sacred ceremonies. It is believed that they also used it to clear away unwanted energies and evil spirits. I don't really want to get into the whole history of sage and the evil spirits because I don't want to freak you out, but that is what I find sage is most associated with, is clearing negativity. But not only negative energy around you or negative energy in your space, but any negative entities that may be lingering. But let's try and keep this to very basic Palo Santo versus sage. Since sage is known to clear unwanted energies, the best time to use it, I find, is after an argument when there's, the heaviness in the air. Also when you're moving into a new space. I sage every single time I move. Knock on wood, I'm here for a very long time, but I went through a time in my life where I moved every single year, which is exhausting, and that is why my sage is so black, because I've burned it a lot. You find that it just kind of releases the stagnant energy and the energy of the people who used to live there and makes it almost like a fresh start for when you move into your new place. You can also use it for cleansing your crystals or new tools such as your tarot and oracle cards. It just kind of cleanses energy from like the manufacturer and the shipping, and it's up to you whether or not that's something you want to believe in, but I've used it to clear my tarot cards. To be honest with you, I don't notice a difference if I clear the energy of my tarot cards or not. If I find that they're starting to get a little, heavy or gunky, I actually just knock on them instead of using the sage, only because it's easier. It's more, my fist is more accessible to me than going to get my sage and lighting it and using the smoke to clear my cards. I think I just got a little off topic. Sage is known to be an endangered plant, so some people have been growing sage in their backyard, but what many people have said was that garden sage smells terrible compared to white sage. I don't really know. I know that white sage is already kind of a little bit too much for me, so I really don't want to know what garden sage smells like. But if you do have sage in your garden, you are more than able to use that to clear your space. You don't have to go to a store to buy white sage bundle or loose leaf to use that instead. You can use whatever is available to you. So before I get into how to use Palo Santo and Sage, let's just very quickly recap. Palo Santo used to cleanse, purify spaces, boost your immune system, and a very calming, purifying, uplifting effect. Smell is much sweeter and subtle than white sage. White sage, known to clear negative energies, negative entities or evil spirits in most cases, not all cases, increases oxygen, a sense of relaxation, clears stagnant energy. Based on my experience, no specific use for one or the other. Seems to be just personal preference. Unless you're trying to clear away negative entities, then I would definitely lean towards sage instead of Palo Santo. So if you're wondering how to use Palo Santo or sage, there's a few different ways. Well, there's a few different ways to use sage. Palo Santo, you don't have my lighter. Basically, you light the end with your lighter or your match, let it burn for about 30 seconds or so, and then gently blow it out. Palo Santo is a little bit harder to light than sage, so you really want to give it that little bit of extra time to catch the flame and soak it in, and then when you blow out the flame, it should start smoking. It depends on what you want to do with sage. So if I want to have a little bit of incense kind of thing going, or if I just want to uplift the room that I'm in, if I'm working, if I'm blogging or doing tarot readings, or if I'm on the laptop doing research and I just kind of want a little boost, then I will actually take some of these white sage leaves and I'll light them and I'll put them in a fire-safe container. So just so that the smoke comes out and it just kind of fills the room. You can, of course, use the bundle. And you can actually, if you, I am completely breaking apart my bundle right now. It's starting to fall apart at the bottom because it's old. If you're using the sage bundle, it's better to light it in smaller areas because if you light too much, it's going to burn too fast and too hot and be really smoky. So to light the sage bundle, you're just going to light it again with a lighter or a match. Let it burn for just a few seconds and then gently blow it out so it's gently smoking. If you don't think that there's enough smoke, then obviously go, light some other areas of the bundle so that you can create some more smoke. It's important to say that whether you have Palo Santo or sage, that you have a fireproof dish handy, especially with the sage bundles. You'll get some ash falling off. You can also use a shell like this. I've heard it pronounced abalone shell and abalone shell, so however you want to say it. Here's a shell. You can put your little leaves in the shell, let it smoke, or you can hold your bundle or your Palo Santo over top just to catch any ashes that will come down. It's also important to say, especially with the bundle, don't go nuts and start like all over the place because you're going to get ashes everywhere. Remember that this is fire, so be responsible. So slow, steady movements. I don't have one, so I just use my hands to push the smoke. There are some people who have feathers, and you can use that to push the energy. It's all personal preference. Push the smoke, not the energy. Once you have lit your Palo Santo or your sage, this is when you set your intention. It's very important to set an intention so that it sounds kind of, out there, but you want the smoke or the object to have a purpose. So if I'm lighting my Palo Santo right now, I might say something like calling in my angels and guides, and then say what my intention is for lighting this. So I could say, angel spirit guides, please protect me and guide me as I use this Palo Santo to clear the energy in my home and release any stagnant and negative energy. You can say as much or as little as you want. Some people say a prayer. It's really up to you, but in my opinion, it is very important to set an intention so that you're not just mindlessly blowing smoke around your home. If you are burning Palo Santo or sage to cleanse the energy in your room or your home, it's important to make sure that the smoke goes all the way up to the ceiling and in those little corners that you can never seem to reach, and also all the way down to the carpet, the baseboards, the floors, whatever. You want the smoke to basically fill your whole home so that it cleanses everything. Especially if we're talking about stagnant energy or negative entities, they tend to move around and hide. Well, stagnant energy doesn't really move around. So it's important to get all the corners, even inside the closet. Some people even said inside your cupboards. I've never done inside my cupboards. Never really occurred to me. And I find it super annoying to do inside my closet, especially if there's clothes hanging in there. But it's really just to make sure nothing is lingering. So I don't tend to spend a whole lot of time in my closets. Also because my closets are small, and to stand in there, I'm inhaling smoke, and it's not really a fun situation to be in. So there's a lot of debate when you're burning your sage or Palo Santo of where to start in your home. Basically, some people say to always start in the back of your home. Some people say to go clockwise. And some people say no matter what, at the very end, the very last thing that you smudge is your front door area. I'm not quite sure I believe in any of that or what the purpose is behind that. I've done multiple ways. I've done the clockwise. I have started from the back to the front. I've done from the basement all the way up. It all seems to do, honestly, the exact same thing. It all seems to cleanse energy, which is exactly what I wanted, and all it did was overcomplicate the whole process for me by focusing on, where do I start, where do I go, what room do I go to next. Don't overcomplicate it. At the end of the day, in my opinion, it's all about your intention, so don't overcomplicate it. Start wherever you want to start, end wherever you want to end, as long as you set an intention and let the smoke get to as high and as low as you possibly can, then I think your mission is complete. There's also a debate on whether or not you should open or close your windows. I used to do it with my windows closed, but I also have a dog. And I noticed that when I saged with my windows closed, she was always sneezing and she wanted to go outside in the backyard. So it made it very uncomfortable for her, which makes sense because she's small and she has small lungs and she can't handle as much as we can. That's also important to keep in mind if you have small animals like gerbils and hamsters and birds. They can't handle nearly as much as us, so it's important to try to not sage the room that they're in, or maybe use Palo Santo because it's a little bit sweeter, but you're definitely, in those cases, going to want to open the windows. It's just kindness to your pets. I like to open my windows when I'm saging. There's two reasons why I say that. One is because sage especially can be very overpowering. I already know that the smell of sage is going to linger in my home, so if I open the windows, it's going to clear it out just a little bit faster. Kind of like when you are cooking and you burn something in the kitchen, which I tend to do very often. That smell will linger for a little bit, so the very first thing you do is open the window or the back door to try and get some air in to clear out that smell. That's what I do for sage. The second reason I do that is, I don't know if it's true, but I read it many, many, many years ago and it seemed to resonate with me. So I open the windows because if there is a negative energy or negative entity, I should say, in my home that I'm trying to clear, they say that if you open the windows, it gives it a place to escape to. I don't know if it's true or not. Again, to me, it's all about the power of intention. I just prefer to keep my windows open. So again, experiment, do what feels right to you. In my opinion, there aren't really any rules, except for don't be a dummy when playing with fire. That seems to be the only rule that I have right now for sage and Palo Santo burning. One thing that I found very interesting when reading about cleansing rooms and homes was that when you're using sage, Native American belief was that once the smoke stopped, you didn't need to continue with the clearing. The clearing was complete. But I know that there's also times where I'm clearing my house and I've only just walked into the room and my smoke goes out and I need to relight my sage. I'm a little bit particular in how things get done and making sure that they're complete to my satisfaction, and I know it sounds like a complete control freak now that I'm saying it out loud, but if I walk into a room and I'm cleansing the entire house except for one room, it's going to drive me mental that that one room is not done. So even though the smoke goes out, I prefer to relight my sage and continue clearing my room. If you're wondering where you can buy Palo Santo or sage, you can pretty much get them from any metaphysical store. It seems to be like a pretty basic purchase in those stores. I've heard people buy sage at Whole Foods. You can also buy it online. There's some people on Etsy who sell like sage bundles or Palo Santo. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it from all those places. I'm sure there's more. I can't really think of them, but basically Etsy, Amazon, metaphysical store, and potentially Whole Foods. You can also, I don't know if I've mentioned it, you can cleanse yourself. It doesn't have to be a room. It doesn't have to be leaves burning in the background. If you are feeling a little blah, a little low energy, you can cleanse yourself. It's important to use the smoke from either the sage or the Palo Santo, but start from the bottom up because we have 7 chakras, and our root chakra is basically at the base of your spine where your tailbone is. And that is what keeps us grounded. So you want to tackle the lower chakras first, from your feet all the way up, so that it can help clear out your chakras and keep you grounded. Especially in the beginning, I would do from top bottom just because, and I always found that I would get a little bit dizzy, a little bit lightheaded. So for me, it's important to start from the bottom up. Just kind of, go around yourself. Get your fingertips, basically from your toes all the way to your fingers and all the way to the top of your head. When I am finished with my sage, and I'm sure people are going to yell at me for this comment, but a lot of people say when you're finished clearing, just leave your Palo Santo or your sage in a fire-safe dish and just let it go out on its own. You can absolutely do that. For those of us who may not be staying at home after they've cleansed, if they have errands to run or they have to get to work or whatever, I have put out my sage because I have needed to go, and you obviously, it's not really like an open flame like a candle, but it's still, kind of on fire. So I don't really want to leave it unattended in my home. If you need to put it out immediately for whatever reason, I would recommend a fire-safe dish with some salt, probably a lot of salt depending on how big your bundle or your stick is, and just gently stirring it around in the salt. I think I have rambled enough about Palo Santo and sage. I hope that you have learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe because I am putting more videos out in the very near future about things like Palo Santo and sage and crystals and tarot cards and oracle cards and anything else I can think of. So if there's something on your mind, you're new to this journey, you have questions, you don't know what to do, feel free to reach out. Let me know either in the comments. I'll also be posting at the very end of this video how you can reach me on Instagram or Facebook. Reach out to me, let me know what's going on, what you're struggling with, so that I can make a video on it and help you, because I know what it feels like to be in those shoes and it sucks. So stay tuned for the next one. Be sure to hit subscribe so that you can get notified of the next video when it comes up in just a few days. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.